Hello friends, it's Kayla. It's time for me to actually select my own romance TBR. I'm going to give some 5-star predictions. Listen, I don't have a great track record for 5-star predictions. If you're new here, I think I've done 3 or 4 different series with about a 15 to 20% success rate. And that's for genres that I read a lot and love, and I still cannot figure out my own reading taste. So this is a completely ridiculous concept. But of all the romance that I've seen around, that I've taken screenshots of, that I've looked a little bit into, these are the ones that I think I could most enjoy. And keep in mind, I haven't read any other romance. Like, this is not based on what you have already seen in episodes 1 and 2. I'm just starting with looking at the relationships that exist in books that I read and the dynamics that exist. And I got some very funny comments about how my perspective on romance seems to be, but like, I don't know, the Instagram infographics have taught me that that's how we select the romance we want to read. The tropes. Plot, who cares about plot? I feel pretty strongly that to love a romance, there needs to be a gimmick. So in the past, I've enjoyed books, not romance books, but books that have enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers as a romance subplot. I really like the trope of fake dating. I haven't loved every book that has fake dating, but I pick up a lot of books and I watch a lot of rom-coms that have fake dating. I also like the idea of forced proximity. I also like the idea of marriage of conveniences. So I'm gonna pick 5 books for myself that have some kind of gimmick or element like this. I don't have any of these books here yet because I just decided on this TBR for myself, but the first one I have is The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. It's actually the 2nd book in a series. The first one's called The Marriage Game, and this one follows, I think, siblings of characters you met in the first book, but we have one character who's a software engineer and another character who's a venture capitalist, and they both feel pressured to get married, so they decide to get into this fake dating and fake marriage scenario. Outside of romance tropes, obviously there's a lot of other storylines and plot points I'm interested in other books. So I love when science and tech is a storyline or a job for somebody. We get to learn all about their role. I also love inheritance plots. And I think the guy in this story like has to be married in order to inherit the family business. So it's a marriage of convenience, and I think these 2 people don't like each other. The next book I have on my list is The Friendship Contract by Mia Heinzelman. So I think you can tell exactly the gimmick that's going on in here. We have a contract between 2 characters who agree that they're just gonna hook up and never be romantically involved. I love movies that have this idea of no strings attached, like it's just gonna be a sexual relationship. I also love movies that lead up to a big event like a wedding or prom or something like that. And I think that's involved in this one, and then they fall in love. The 3rd book on my list is called The Proposal They Can't Refuse by Natalie Kanya. And this is a fake engagement story that has been pitched as like true enemies to lovers. Like, these 2 people cannot stand each other, but they've been set up by their respective grandfathers. And for me, when it comes to reading romance, like, I do think it's interesting to read things that people have loved for so long, books that have been out forever, but I also want to be bold and give some 5-star predictions for brand new releases that not many people have read yet. Right now, the romance I think that I'm interested in, it leans more soft and nice and funny, and the only genre that comes to mind that also gives those vibes that I read is like cozy mysteries. And I often like cozy mysteries that revolve around food and like running a restaurant and stuff. So this one, our main character is a Puerto Rican chef. So I'm excited to see if it's a win. I also have a chef related one called A Dash of Salt and Pepper by Kosoko Jackson that doesn't come out until December. So that'll actually be one of the last things that I read for this entire series. It seems like we have a Grumpy Sunshine situation here where these 2 people who don't like each other have to work together in a restaurant kitchen. And the synopsis just sounds perfectly cheesy. When the heat between them threatens to top the Scoville scale, they'll have to decide if they can make their relationship work or if life has seasoned them too differently. And then the last one I've selected is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, which I've had on my radar for so long, and I've always thought if I were to enjoy a romance, this could be one, because I've heard it's an equal amount of just her, I don't know, growing as a person, learning about herself, but also a good romance. Our main character has a newly completed PhD in astronomy, and she goes on a Vegas girl girls trip where she ends up getting married to a girl that she met like that day. And then I guess they decide they need to actually spend some time together and get to know each other because they're married. And it just creates a fun forced proximity kind of dynamic. I do think this is the heaviest of the options because it deals with mental health and like family trauma maybe. It says it's about navigating the messiness of adulthood. I think it sounds really interesting. So there we have the 5 books that I plan to read for this specific video, and I'll check in with you when something actually arrives. I've bought some things, ordered some things from the library. Some things are not released yet, so whatever comes, I'll read it in that order. We're just about to leave on our last camping trip of the season, and I'm trying to decide which book I want to take with me for the weekend. We're going to be just hanging out by the campfire, in our tents, hiking on the beach, and I don't know if either of these are like the perfect vibe. And I can't decide between them because they're both like fake dating, and I just looked at the synopsis and they both have a main character named Liam. They're both also like the exact same length, and I feel like they're gonna have really similar conversations. I'm gonna close my eyes and pick one. This is it, the dating plan. We have to stop and grab lunch. It's a couple-hour drive. Maybe I'll read a bit in the vehicle. Let you know. I read 50 pages of my book. I think it's fine. I think it's a little unrealistic that these two people who barely dated 10 years ago have just been pining after each other for 10 years and saying things like, I've never loved anyone else, and I've never thought of anyone else. But like, you were 17 and they didn't even really date. It's kind of weird. Actually, no, I shouldn't say it's unrealistic or unbelievable because everybody has a different like life experience. It's just where are these characters, where we're supposed to understand that they are in life. It just seems odd that they haven't interacted in 10 years. They haven't tried to connect in 10 years, but they're saying things like, this is the person I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, or I haven't stopped thinking about them. I haven't been able to date anyone else. Like, I guess this supposed to be romantic. I'll go along with it. We're on our way home from our trip. I haven't finished my book, but I wanted to give you a little update. I'm like halfway through, and I just thought it was worth noting that I'm actually filming all of these videos completely out of order, like the videos and the books. So this is actually only the 3rd book of all like 25 that I'm even reading. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about like, there might be conversations I've already had in other videos is what I'm saying. Anyway, something that comes along with fake dating a lot of the time is a second chance romance. And that is something that I realized, and I've already established that I don't love a second chance romance. It's not my favorite thing. And this book is exactly why. They keep saying all of these things and they keep talking about their feelings that they had for each other, and I just don't believe it because I wasn't there to see it. I can't comprehend like how they're saying one thing 1 second and then saying something completely different. It's like, oh, I've been pining over you for 10 years, but also like, I've thought you were a complete asshole for 10 years because you abandoned me in my prom, never talked to me. Like, I think you're an absolutely terrible person. But then something nice will happen between them and she'll be like, this is the Liam that I remember, and this is the man I've been thinking about all of these years. And it's like, no, you haven't. You just told us that you've been trying to forget him. And like, I understand that they're battling emotions here. Like, that's the whole point of this romance. But since I wasn't there and we're not getting flashbacks, I just can't be convinced of the chemistry that they have because I don't really see it current day, so it's hard for me to wrap my mind around it existing in a time that I don't even get to read. And this probably shouldn't have been a 5-star prediction, but like, my bad. Hopefully the proposal one, which is that also a second chance? Hopefully it'll go well. Also, I think, well, it makes sense because both of their names are Liam. They're probably both like Irish because he runs, or he wants to own his grandparents' Irish what is it, distillery? It's now been like an entire day since I've even picked up this book, so I don't really remember. And the other book had something to do with like his Irish background and why that's so important to him and his family and why they're fake dating, I think. Maybe I'll read that one next to really be able to compare these two. How is camping, Liam? Good. Okay, good. I've made a realization at this point that romance for me is a one-day experience. I need to read it in one day, or it's not as fun. Because while I'm reading it, even if I'm enjoying it, as soon as I put it down, I don't really want to pick it back up. This is the one case I think that I am a mood reader. I really need to be in the mood for a romance, and that feeling is very fleeting. So I need to start it, and if I'm having a good time, complete it in one day. I do think it's kind of cool that each of these 3 videos so far has started off with a 3-star, because at this moment it feels like any of them could go in any direction from here. And I feel like all I've talked to you about so far is the dynamic between these characters, and I want to talk about the plot, but there isn't a lot of plot. It's really focused on them building this fake relationship, getting into a real relationship rather quickly, and then various encounters with family, friends, and coworkers where they're trying to convince everybody that their romantic relationship is real. What I did like about this is there was a little integration of hockey, like they went to a hockey game, and I had my eye out and I was seeing if like the accuracy of who the team was playing and like what point in the season they were, and it checked out. The characters in here are pretty big Sharks fans, and it was just an interesting look at fan culture for just a little bit. My biggest dislike were the sex scenes. I hated them so much, which is not really new for me, but like I hated them more than I thought I could go into it open-minded. But between the like say my name proclamations to the open for me, my time-keeping seductress, I couldn't get on board. I never thought I'd make my way out of those scenes. My biggest gripe, interestingly, remains the tone shift and the unexpected heaviness of romance books. I've now come in contact with the 3rd act breakup, and I hate it, but I feel like I hated it especially in here because of how it was done and how inauthentic it felt. And not just the 3rd act breakup, but the 3rd act crushing sadness. All of a sudden we're talking about repressed trauma and debilitating anxiety and abuse, and then there's a missing child. And these are all things that I read in other books, but I go into them knowing that that's going to be the conversations we're navigating and a huge part of the overall plot and development of a character. And I don't know that that's where my preferences lie when I'm just trying to get on board with these happy characters being happy together. And while I think that overcoming these things gives character development, brings characters closer together, there's nothing inherently flawed about that. But when it looks like this and it's so pretty and happy, for me, I have a hard time coming out of those moments because feeling how the characters feel has a real big impact on me as a reader. It always has. So suddenly in the next chapter where they're happy and kissing and we're doing all of the end moments where everything is a happy ending, my mental state is still very much in the difficult place we were just trudging through. Since I'm new to romance, I don't know the tone of a lot of these books, and when I read these little blurbs, sometimes the wording, like heartfelt, might mean more than I interpret it as when you're pairing it with hilarious and rom-com. So clearly this Liam, the inheritor of an Irish whiskey distillery, did not work for me as a love interest. So perhaps the Liam in here, who's inheriting an Irish whiskey distillery, will be. Shocking similarities. All right, everything has kicked off. We've gotten an introduction to the dynamic, all of the characters. Already 70 pages in, they have decided to get engaged. I don't feel like at this point I'm getting to know them very well. I want more of their personalities to come through. But weirdly, this Liam also left the main character, or they're both main characters. I don't really understand how to talk about romance. I know people also use the words like hero and heroine, and I don't know if that only qualifies for a certain type of romance. Anyway, he also left her at prom, just like in the dating plan. They were prom dates, and that's like the last time they interacted, and that is why they have this hate to love storyline to begin with, is because they went to prom, or they were supposed to go to prom. We haven't gotten the full details, but she was like, that thing that happened at prom night, I know I can't trust him. What years did both of these books come out? 2022? 2021. How are they the same? Is this just a thing I can expect from romance, to feel like I'm picking up the same story frequently? Okay, I finished it. I'm not upset that I'm giving it like 3 stars. I'm just upset that I'm giving it 3 stars because I wanted it to be 5 stars. Like, I don't care that I didn't like it. I read it in one day. I'm never really gonna think about it again. I feel like I did like it a little bit more than The Dating Plan. What I did like about this, and also what I didn't like about this, is the family dynamics. This book did get dark again. It explored family trauma, and it got very aggressive, and I didn't love that. Though there were like trigger warnings at the beginning and everything, and I do think it's fair that that tension happened, but I do think it was very much drama created for a third act intensity that the book did not need and didn't feel authentic to the characters. There was a lot of anger, there was a little bit of reveals, but I just feel like everyone's reactions to what was happening, the miscommunication that was introduced, it didn't feel right. And that really made me drop it down an entire star because that was going on for so long. It's not just that it was like upsetting to me, who feels like I got connected to these characters and now they're sad, but it's again that after all of that drama, everything wraps up so quickly and is nice again, just like very briefly. And I want to sit in different things for a different period of time. I liked both Camilla and Liam. I think they were decent characters. They did feel a little bit generic to me and intentionally vague so you could easily relate. Like, my biggest personal trait is that I love my family and want to do whatever it takes to support them. What I didn't like, I think there was only like one sex scene, and since it wasn't uncomfortable for me, like, I wanted more. And I also really liked the dynamic between them and the whiskey distillery, because Camilla is like supporting him and coming up with ideas of like how to do tours and how to market the business, and it's this really interesting balance because in her personal life she's doing something similar with her family and their restaurant, but no one's taking her ideas seriously. But with Liam, she's coming up with all these ideas and she's helping him out even though she doesn't understand the business, and so he's telling her about the business, and there's this great back and forth and like working together moment, and that was really fun. And then it led to like participating in this whiskey kind of competition that wasn't a huge part of the book, but that was like a sentimental scene that again wasn't too cringy for me, so a win there, where he just did some things to show how much she means to him, basically. I'm gonna be obnoxious and give this a 3.25, and I'll check in with you next time I start a book. I'm at the point in this video series where I'm like editing clips and I'm reading all of these things and having to watch myself talk about them back to back. I'm sure it's exhausting for you to watch because it's exhausting for me to edit, and I'm like, stop overanalyzing so much and just enjoy yourself. So I guess that's the one major flaw with this video series and the way I created it, because the 2 books that I started this video with, that was so long ago now, and I've read so many good things since that. It's just starting to feel like such chaos. But I'm reading Honey Girl today. It is a beautiful fall day, and I'm just gonna go sit out on a bench and enjoy the weather. I'll probably take a photo of this with some beautiful like fall leaves, trees, because that's the vibe that this gives me. I think it's set in the summer. I know the part that I'm at is in the summer, but I don't know if the whole thing takes place in the summer. But anyway, I know I've been talking about the tone shift, and what I'll say about this is this has equally as intense topics as the previous 2 books. However, it has this melancholy feel the entire time from what I can like see the direction this book is going. So we have our main character Grace, and she got married in Vegas but doesn't really remember it, and she is really struggling in life. She's clearly very anxious and depressed, and she's struggling with her self-worth, and she has this little romantic kind of back and forth with the girl that she married in Vegas. It's not like the fun, let's get to know each other, like silly rom-com vibe that I thought maybe it would be. It's very intense. So yeah, she's taking some time off. She's spending the summer with Yuki and some of her roommates in New York, but she is still just working through a lot of her feelings. I'm really liking it. I don't know why I said a third of the way through. I'm actually halfway through. I don't actually know that this is marketed as a romance, so I think just generally it's unfair of me to even include it in this video. Also, because it was already on my TBR, like this is something I've been interested in because I thought I understood the genre, and what it was going to be, you know, a contemporary story with romantic elements but not a romance. And so I probably could have enjoyed this the same way I would be now if it was like 3 years ago when I wasn't really reading romance. Yeah, gonna go out, check in with you in a sec. I finished Honey Girl and I'm giving it 4
4.25 stars. It is not a romance because it very much just follows our main character, Grace. And yes, there is a romantic relationship, but because the book is not about them as a couple, it is about Grace. I just would never find myself recommending this as a romance, though I'm sure romance readers could still enjoy it, obviously. A lot of times I feel like I struggle with this perspective of a book where we have a woman who is in a rut in life and she like spends one summer just like doing like a kind of eat, pray, love, which was even referenced in here, like moment to really come back to yourself and find out what you care about. A lot of times it's just following a certain type of character and they're a mother and their husband doesn't appreciate them, and it's just like a really exhausting book that gets the type of book that gets recommended a lot, and I always struggle with them. But this I would definitely recommend to those readers who enjoy that type of story. Even though she is younger, she doesn't have an established like relationship or children at the beginning of the book, so it's not the same, and what she's struggling with is like the beginning of her career. She's 28 and she just got her PhD in astronomy, and she has been really kind of pushed into this career, and she has a father who has pressured her a lot and is very intense. And now that she's in this kind of transitional period, she's exhausted. She's really run down in her career kind of already, and there are a lot of barriers set up for her. She is a woman in a certain field. She's a Black woman in this field. She's facing a lot of barriers in something that she doesn't even know if she wants to do, but she still has a lot of passion for. So it's this struggle with that, and then also standing up to her parents, and then on top of everything, starting out this relationship with this woman who she just like let herself feel free for one night of her life and then got married. You definitely root for the relationship. All of the characters are really vivid and everyone is there for Grace and they love her and they support her, but she still has such a hard time seeing that. And so the story is her like coming to understand that people love and support her, but also that like everybody is going through shit and everyone is going to be there for each other as much as they can. There are a lot of hard friendship truths that have to be uncovered in here, and I cried twice. It was just one single tear each time, but there are just a couple moments where she's really vulnerable. I don't think it would be considered a spoiler that like she ends up going to a therapist, and there was this series of therapists that she met up with that felt very genuine of the experience of meeting with people and them not meshing with you and them just like assuming they know what you want to talk about until you find like the right person who you can really open up to. And obviously you feel throughout the book that's something that she desperately needs, but I'll stop there as far as plot points because there are a couple other things going on. There's a big event that's really fun and things definitely to discover for yourself, even if you feel like you know the vibes of this from me. But that's that. Favorite book of the video so far, even though it wasn't a romance. So let's try again and get a real romance next time. Today's read is The Friendship Contract by Mia Heinzelman. I'm 50 pages into it. I've gotten the introduction. It's super pretty inside. And I just realized that I have had a 5-star in every single video for this series, including tomorrow's, except for this one. And this is my second last read for the video, so I just hope it's a win. I also realized that I have had like a wedding-centric book in all of these videos, and that's definitely something that I'm enjoying, and this one has that too. So we have Allegra, and at the beginning of the book we get a very Legally Blonde moment where she thinks she's being proposed to and instead she's being broken up with. She has a law firm with 2 of her best friends who also didn't like that guy to begin with, but one of them is like secretly, not so secretly in love with Allegra. And so right off the bat, she gets kicked out of her place with her super rich boyfriend, and she ends up moving into Damon's house, kind of meant to be temporary, and then all her stuff shows up. But she has her brother's wedding to go to like the next day. So her other friend is like, you should just go on this trip, take some time to yourself, figure out what you want, and then when you come back, you'll have like a fresh perspective on life or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that Damon is about to end up going on the trip with her. And so their love story can happen on vacation, and that just seems like really fun vibes. As it's currently snowing here, I need the warm, sunny vacation storyline. The writing's really solid so far, thankfully. I have no idea where I even heard of this to begin with. I'll try to figure that out by the end. But it's dual perspective, which is fun. I have a feeling I'm gonna blow through this today, but I will update you like at the halfway point and let you know how it's going. 50% in, they're on the wedding weekend together. They're both participating in respective like bachelor, bachelorette type activities, which is very fun to follow as my white balance figures itself out. There hasn't been
much conflict yet, but we are getting some stuff about their jobs, which is fun, and the things that they're gonna have to do. They work in like copyright and trademarking, which is a type of law that I find interesting, and I've taken business courses like related to that, not in the law sense, but in the business graphic design sense. I feel like the STEAM is at a level I'm comfortable with. The only thing I don't love sometimes when we get dual POV is the characters aren't communicating as much as I wish they would, but because they're communicating their feelings to us, all of the actions like make sense. So like we know that Allegra is interested in Damon, but she hasn't said that to him. So on his end, it looks more like she's using him, just got out of a relationship, kind of feeling like a rebound, but I guess he feels okay with it because he wants to have her in any way that he can because he is so into her. But he also hasn't really told his feelings to her. So she has done a couple things. For example, he was like in the shower and she opened the shower while he was in there and like looked at him and internally thought about him and her feelings for him, but didn't say any words to him, and then gets in the shower with him, and then he also doesn't say any words, and then she says like please, and then she says like don't say anything, your body can speak for you, I know you're not comfortable talking. And I just would have liked a little more of a consensual like verbal moment there, because reading it from her perspective and him not giving her any clues of how he's feeling, his body language and his lack of like speaking looks like he's not interested. And so I don't really like that she's interpreting that as consent. But obviously like they're both very grown individuals, and I understand they have shown interest in each other, but just not with their words. Here's the thing. I had no issues with this book, like actually not a single issue except for its length. And I just think it's good for me to know that. Like, this was the shortest book that I read in this entire series. It's only like 250 pages, which I didn't know when I picked it up. And now I know about myself. I do want like a 400-page romance. I think I have to land on a 3 for this. I just can't believe how little I got of everything that I wanted. And this was so unfair of me to call it a 5-star prediction. Like, it barely has any ratings on Goodreads. I don't know where I heard about it. And the gimmick was so little of the book. Like, they were already saying I love you 10 seconds after signing the friendship contract, saying that they were just in it for a fling. Like, they rewrote the contract 3 times at the very beginning of the book, where they were going to fake date for a second, and then they were just going to be friends with benefits, and then they were just like, we're in love. And literally talking about getting married maybe 5 days after she was gonna get married to somebody else. It sucks that there's only been a few Friends to Lovers books, because my assumption is that I don't like Friends to Lovers books, but so many people love it, and I feel like the ones that I've read aren't the best representation of that subgenre or trope or whatever. And so I can't in good faith confirm at the end of this if I like Friends to Lovers or not. I think their friendship was completely believable. The comfort they had with each other, the amount of time that they've been working together, been friends, like had this great connection. How quickly they just decided to be together was wild, especially because I didn't feel like the chemistry, but I feel like people will enjoy it for the comfort factor. Like, they just fall into each other's arms and they're like, we're both single, we've both thought about this, and we're just together and we're happy and like everything's great. But I do want more pining, more of a slow burn, more sexual tension especially. And I feel like because of that, people tend to recommend me like historical romance, and I do think that that's something that I could explore, but this week was intended to be just contemporary romance. And I think there is a space in the world for me and like paranormal romance, historical romance, futuristic romance, like who knows. But so the actual gimmick of the book, it was barely part of the plot. The wedding was like 1 page. We didn't get like the ceremony, the reception, the like people seeing them together for the first time and reacting. And then also they're working on this case for a couple days, and we like, it's such a big part of the story because it has to do with both of their pasts and how they come together, and there's all of these like learnings that happen. But then the mediation itself was like 1 page. And you might think, well, those scenes are brief because it's a romance and we need to focus on the couple, but we kind of didn't. Sure, we had a lot of like sentimental, emotional conversations between them. I think we got 2 sex scenes in here that were very brief, and the rest of it was just them talking about their pasts and their family and going and spending time with their family and just like talking about their feelings for each other. There was a couple different relationships and family dynamics introduced, but then we didn't spend enough time really developing them. Like near the end, a couple new people kind of got introduced into the story, and it felt like it was intended to be maybe the start of a series and we're going to revisit those people later. But just them being briefly in the book felt so weird because I didn't know who they were or why their connections mattered. Though I really was having a fine time. Nothing gave me the ick. Nothing made me uncomfortable. Nothing made me mad. There was nothing I couldn't understand where people were coming from. I feel like I would still recommend this to people. If you want something that's just short and straight to the point, like it delivers. Hopefully, the final book that just got shipped today, I got the notification, so that's gonna arrive thankfully before the end of the series. I was worried about it because it actually doesn't come out for another like week or two. Excited that's working out. We have another chance for a big win, so I'll see you when it arrives. I'm reading my final book today, A Dash of Salt and Pepper by Kosoko Jackson, and I'm a little over 100 pages in, but I just went back to the 90-page mark because I thought what would be fun is I was hoping that there might be recipes in here like there is in A Cozy Mystery. There's not, like at the end, but they do talk about food throughout the story. And I thought it'd be fun to make something mentioned in the book. Because we're following Xavier, who just moved back to his small town, and he's working for this chef guy, Logan. He's saving up money to go back to school, and so he's taking this part-time job in a kitchen. He's experienced with food, but I don't think he's had a chefy job before. And right off the bat, they do not really like each other. Actually, the book opens with him breaking into his house and him like attacking him. And while he's attacking him, he's like, oh, this man has such big muscles. He's so strong and handsome. And then it turns out he was supposed to be in the house because his mother knows him. Why he would attack some random person in the house that his mother lives in, his very first day there, is just very strange. Anyway, so that's what kicks off their hate to love dynamic. I think when I initially read the synopsis, I thought that they were going to be the same age, and when it called them rivals, I thought maybe they like knew each other from school, kind of Delilah Green Doesn't Care vibes, where like they're just in different places in life. One of them has a child, one of them's coming back to the small town, but he's actually 15 years older and he is his boss. In the next chapter, Xavier's internal thoughts go, he's not really my boss. And I was like, what are you talking about? He is your boss. Like, he's hiring you, he's doing your training, he's choosing if you stay on the team, he's writing your paycheck. Like, what do you mean he's not your boss? Anyway, Xavier's internal monologue is taking over the entire story in a way that I would recommend you don't listen to the audiobook if you have the physical copy, and that is an option, because I listened to it for a bit and it's so hard to tell when he's thinking and when he's actually speaking, because he'll be in the middle of a conversation and he will go on like an entire page tangent that it sounds like it's him responding to the person, but it's actually him like giving, you know, a sarcastic response like you say in your head what you wouldn't actually say out loud, but it goes on and on and on. And it's happened a lot. But now they're at the point they're going on a little road trip together somewhere to do something for the business. They're gonna get closer, it's gonna get adorable. But all the food they've mentioned so far has been fish, but there was this one thing that popped up. So let me reread it and what it said, because I know it said watermelon and salad. It's not like a recipe, but the scene describes what they're eating. So his right hand is under the lettuce. He's putting a fork in his mouth to taste the food. There's tanginess of balsamic, melding with the sweetness of some fruit that's mixed with dressing to balance it out. There's also walnuts and goat cheese, but it's a warm salad. So I'm wondering what else is in this salad. And then he recognized the flavor and says, did you put watermelon in here? And they say, yes, it's watermelon puree. And I just think that sounds delicious. And it's what kicks off him hiring him, because he like recognized the flavors. And so he has a taste for the business, I guess. I'm gonna read like 100 more pages and then head to the grocery store. So if anything else pops up, then I can grab ingredients for that. Okay, here's where we're at. For a warm salad, I grabbed beets because this is something I already do, like a beet turnip radish salad. I'll tell you about the book in a second. Just give me a moment because it's not going well. Lettuce doesn't really go with warm salad for me, so I got spinach and arugula. And I found this 1/2 slice of watermelon left in the store. I also grabbed a pomegranate, red onion, because that's literally on the cover of the book. We've got beets, red onion,
and arugula. I think that's what I'm seeing here. There was really no other description of this salad, but this is what I'm going with. Before I found the watermelon, I thought I would just grab this watermelon juice because I remembered seeing it like a week before. So now I don't have to use it and I can just sip it, and I bet it's terrible because I don't like juice. Cheers. That's disgusting. Fake watermelon is just the worst. I can relate to the small town and the lack of being able to find ingredients because I had to spend $10 on this bag of walnuts because we don't have like a bulk section and there was nothing smaller. I literally need 20 walnuts. So I'm gonna reduce down some watermelon juice. I normally make the sauce that I make with white wine vinegar. I feel like balsamic goes better with watermelon. Lemon, garlic, red pepper flakes. Oh yeah, and the goat cheese. I guess you can watch me chop all this up while I tell you what I'm thinking of the book, just briefly. Almost forgot my apron. Oh my God, there was just this one scene where he tied the apron on the other guy. And now I wish I had somebody to tie my apron. So let me tell you the good, bad, and ugly of what's currently happening in the book. The good is that I do understand, God, I hate that knife. I understand the conversations that the author is wanting to have as far as like being discriminated against and finding opportunities in all sorts of workplaces and schools. His identity as a Black man very much affects his life, and he's sharing all of those things with us about how he has to be perfect compared to his white counterparts and how he doesn't get the same opportunities and how determined he is to be successful. And I think he makes for a really interesting main character. That is a lot of like the dialogue that's going on in his mind when he's interacting with people. Someone will say something and he'll be like, oh, that reminds me of that one time, this, and this. And so I appreciate those conversations, like, you know, coming into play at all. I think the main reason that I'm annoyed that I'm not liking it is like, for one, it's my 5-star prediction, so like that sucks that it's not going well. But two, it's like this is my only male romance on this in this entire video series because it didn't pop up in any other places. And I feel like romance, or really every genre, is abundantly full of women writing stories about men in love with men. And I just wanted to make sure I was picking up an Own Voices story. So just it being the only one on my list and it not going well, it just is bumming me out. So the bad is I feel like I can't think of another way to say this besides blue balls, but I don't mean it in a sexual way, but this book is the epitome of blue balls. It's like everything that's happening that is good, it never happens again. Oh my God, look at my hands. So there was like one scene where they had that cute little fun road trip, right? And then it was like, okay, that's over. You're never coming back to that. Now we're doing dirty talk, very intense. Now that's over. Don't expect that to come back. It's not happening again. Then it time jumps 3 months and it's like they're having very intense conversations about their future and what they want out of life. And then the book is over. It just runs through everything so quickly. And the ugly, good, bad, and ugly, is I'm in the last like 30 pages and we have hit the most dramatic third act conflict. The stakes are just very high. It's very dramatic. The reactions of everybody is a lot to read. The sense of betrayal going on, it's so exhausting. But I feel like I was enjoying all of those bits and pieces, but then like we never returned to them. Even like the kitchen staff and their fun interactions, seeing like the behind the scenes of a working kitchen, that was just one scene and it was over. Him and his like best friend, you see how close they are and how like they're ride or die and they'll do anything for each other, but it was just once. So I have nothing bad to say, but I feel very unfulfilled. It was like every scene was over just a little too fast and then we never got back to any of the feelings throughout the story. And now I'm just trudging through this like really exhausting ending. I've got my reduction. Now we'll see if it all comes together as a salad. I'm very hot. I also have a protein in the oven for everybody. But here is the recipe that was in the book-ish that I made however I wanted. I like it. Can I really taste the watermelon? A little bit. Okay, bye. At this point, I'm just disappointed in myself. For one, nobody told me this was collagen. Why does something that looks all cute and juicy have grass-fed collagen in it? But more so, why did I not read that? Because
No. And why couldn't have this just been a win? Like, why? Why do I have to come on camera and tell you that my 5-star predictions video left me with no 5 stars? It's so crazy because for this being the longest book, it did not feel like it. This went by so quickly. Much like these ones, I feel like had no real issue with it. Like nothing that was so bothersome that I want to rant about it. I think I'm gonna settle with a 3 because I liked so many elements of it. I can see how these characters are happy where they're at. They got the ending that they want. I didn't love things about it. Like I didn't love the ending itself. And I don't really have anything much more to say about this one. I think it could have benefited from dual POV. That's one of my thoughts. And if we look at the stack that I read for this video, I don't know that there are many learnings that I haven't had from other books first. So we have established the tone shift. I think if a book is light, the drama should be light on the light side. If a book is starting out melancholy, then it can get intense with the drama. These ones are definitely more about the main character's experience and their growth. So like it made sense why it was just from one perspective. But if I was picking these up with the hope that they were like intense contemporaries about a main character's growth and journey, they probably would have had a little too much romance for me. This one more so. It definitely had more romance than this one. I just wanted more actual small town vibes. My biggest learning is that I shouldn't do 5-star predictions. I still don't know my reading taste, though at this point, would I have built this same TBR after all the reading that I've already done by this point in real time? Some of these books probably wouldn't have been on here. I would make a completely different TBR 5-star predictions now, which I won't be doing because I'm never doing this again. I shouldn't have done it to begin with. That's gonna be a good soundbite for the teaser trailer. And here we are at the end of the video where I show you tomorrow's TBR and I ask you, knowing what you know now, which of these are gonna be wins? Because tomorrow's video is where I paid professionals to choose my TBR for me. This is what they came up with. Do you think I'm gonna love them all? Which ones do you think will be wins? Which do you think will be flops? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.